Good morning. Good afternoon now. Hey, Adam. Thank you for saying something. Can you hear me?
Good
Loud and
afternoon.
clear.
Hey, Mika.
Hey
All right.
there.
Carlin, yay. My groupies. Well, I'm gonna
Be
get
blue
started.
groupies.
Here you go. I love it. So look, you guys are gonna be the best on the sidewalk. That's all I've got to say. All right. We are going to go ahead and get started because this is, that's my alarm to remind me to get started. Hold on. I turned it on. There we go. Sorry about that. Let's turn me off altogether. Okay. So, good afternoon. This is Broker Strategy Call. My name is Deborah Blue. I am the Midtown Managing Broker, and this is a call that's for the heart of Atlanta, so all of our 6 offices, to get your burning questions answered. And sometimes when you don't have burning questions, I've got a topic. Why? Because the broker gets called about it quite often. And so we are going to use this time for you to ask questions, for me to give you a little bit of information. I don't know about you, but I am ad nauseum about the whole NAR settlement, but we have to keep putting it in your head because the train is constantly, thank you, Adam. The train is constantly going down the track and sometimes falling off back again. Many of you received an email over the weekend or maybe even last week that the July date of changes based on the NAR settlement will happen in August 17th. So I will keep us up to date, and I'm sure the other brokers, Tom and Angie, will do the same. Also, just a side note, contract class this month for Midtown and all of Heart of Atlanta is invited will be May 20th and 21st. I'm hoping our new training room will be available because that dungeon we're in trying to teach, I don't even know how I'm going to do that. So I'm told that we probably will be in there by then. And that's on the May 20th and 21st. May 20th will be purchase and sale nuggets and going over basics. And then, of course, I always put in a little nugget there. I think it's from 1 to something. And then Tuesday will be amendments, exhibits, things of that nature. So if you need a refresher, or you can stop in on the parts that you need and leave. It's not, I may have it as a CE. I will, if it is going to be a CE, I'll let you know that. But for right now, it's in the same format that it typically is in. And of course, I'll have handouts. That seems to be the consensus, that everyone likes my handwritten notes. And so we will stick with that until we come up with something better. All right, so let's talk about, first of all, do we have anyone new on Broker Chat that I have not met yet? Please unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Cameron Jock. I'm from the Buckhead office.
Hello, Cameron. Welcome from the Buckhead office.
Thank
And
you
how
for
long have
having
you
me.
been in the business?
I just hit my 2-year mark this week.
Oh, well, then you're a seasoned agent.
All right, I'll take it. Yeah.
Anyone else? Thank you. Welcome, Cameron.
Hey everyone, my name is Michael Williams. I'm in the in-town office. I also just hit my 2-year mark, and actually heard about this from our new little Circle, our Circle Social app. So I'm glad to
Thank
be
you
here.
for reminding me. So you probably also received an email. Thank you for that and welcome. Um, when I started with Keller Williams in '99, we had an intranet. Of course, that's old talk for you millennial and electronic babies. And that's how we communicated. It was very archaic, but we thought we were cutting edge. And now Brett has moved us to what's called Circle. Luke and Brett, probably more Luke than Brett, because Luke is the one that will let you in and all that. And I really love it. It gives us one platform for the heart of Atlanta to find out everything that's going on. If you're in any type of specialty group, like the Young Realtors organization, you will have a private circle to group to be in. I am, for those of you in Midtown, going to move the KW Team Ridge to that area so we can talk. You can let me know when things are going good, bad, or ugly, that kind of thing. So no, that's coming soon. I asked Luke to set that up, and then I will send that. So I don't have to send a group text, but that was the best thing I could do for the moment. And I knew this circle was coming. So I'll set that up. But that's going to be a great platform. So once you get that login, make sure you go in and check out different notifications and things of that nature. You can turn the notifications on and off so you're not hit with a bunch of those type of interruptions or distractions. Also, contracts usually are updated mid-year. We're already in May. We have not received any updates yet. The reason is because of all this back and forth going on with the settlement and what our contracts are going to need to say specifically. So the contract committee is, every time they think they've got it, something else happens. They've got to go back to the drawing board. So we will have, I'm hoping by the time I teach at the end of the month, which is why I moved it to the end of the month, to give them a chance to get those changes to us. And there's no guarantee, but I'm hoping we'll have the changes. So that will be an important contract class to attend if you're able to do that. So thank you. Anyone else on the call that's new?
New to KW?
Yes.
Well, I started in January, and I plan on taking your contracts class at the end of the month. So yeah. And
who are you, mystery woman? I don't see you on my screen.
Oh, Jacqueline Walker, and I plan on taking your contracts class at the end of the month.
Beautiful.
I'm at KW Midtown as well.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, there's a lot of you and one of me, so always come up and introduce yourself, because I may talk to you today and once I'm off this call, I've forgotten what happened. So make sure you come up and introduce yourself so I can put a face with a name. All right, let's get started so you have a chance to get all these wonderful nuggets. Now, I was told that, do you see in the chat your handouts? Before I get started, let me know that.
Yes, we have links.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, oops, we don't want that. All right, so did everyone love my little topic? Swipe left for exclusive, swipe right for non-exclusive, friend the customer. I've never been on a dating chat. I just thought that was cute. Left might be wrong and right might be wrong. I just thought it was cute. So if you're on a dating app and I did it wrong, let me know in case I want to use this again. All right, so let's start out by talking about BRETA. When we were all licensed, we learned about BRETA. And the purpose of it is to define and regulate our relationships between the different people that we work with every day, whether it's a buyer or a seller, whether they're exclusive, whether they're non-exclusive, and a customer. Throughout my career, I've mostly 90% have been exclusive. Since I moved to working with mostly off-market and investors, I do a lot of customer. That changed for me when NAR settled, when the lawsuit was settled by the other states. I want you to understand, especially for those of you that are 2 years in the business or less, maybe even 5 years or less, Georgia was not a state that was named as a big part of the lawsuit because our GAR contracts have always been written, for the most part, correctly. Commissions have always been negotiable. When I started in the business, commissions were 7%, and it was 3.5. That was just the typical thing we would see in the MLS, or if we were working with a for sale by owner. It was negotiated, but it was typical to see it. Notice I didn't use the word standard, because and most of you that have been coming to my classes, you've never heard me say standard. Why? Because I learned in pre-license that we don't have standard commissions. We have negotiable commissions. Is everybody with me so far? All right. So that is the purpose of BRETA. When you hear someone talk about it, like, what is BRETA? Why do we say that? I don't even know what those letters mean, and so on and so forth. It's how we move through the world in real estate with the people that we represent. Okay, that's an easy way to remember. It is always written. Now, with one exception, if you work with someone without a written agreement, which is not smart, and it won't be smart in the future, that's a customer, period. Okay, but you may have an office policy. Everyone on this call is a realtor. We have agreed that we would use GAR forms, that we would do everything in writing. So that is why the contract committee created that customer agreement. Okay, because when I started in the business, there was no customer agreement. Okay, so Bretta provides that a client relationship can only be formed if it's written. But what happens in the industry, as things were watered down and created this whole problem, you would work with a buyer by saying, meet me at this house. They call you on the phone, meet me at this house. And, oh, I want to write an offer. And you would do everything at once. And they just sign it. And they sometimes knew what they were signing, and sometimes they didn't. If you are not having consultations of some sort, whether it be on Zoom, in person, at the coffee shop, whatever, for those that have been to my contract class, I called it CETO, because my coach taught me that many, many years ago. Come into the office. I didn't make that up. I got that from someone else, and it's never left me. So, in light of the new world, we don't always have to come to the office to meet with the person, but you can do Zoom, you can meet with them in a coffee shop or whatever, but you should be going over the brokerage engagement. And come August 17th, that's going to be more important than ever, because it's going to say that has to be signed before you write an offer, which means we should not see March 7th brokerage agreement and binding agreement date March 7th. Okay, so the written agreement is also referred as the brokerage engagement. And that goes for both listing and buyer, but we're only talking about buyer today. And if you have questions about listing, I can answer that. So the broker's compensation, the brokerage engagements must state those terms. We have always had a place on the buyer, brokerage, and non-exclusive and exclusive agreement about commission or compensation, but you don't see that on the customer agreement. So how do you get paid? All right. So failure to include that information means you don't get paid. Now, as the broker, I've seen a lot of different things, lots of stories. I have lots of war stories. But the one that I don't like hearing is an agent calling to tell me, hey, I don't think I'm getting paid. And I immediately ask, what does the contract say? For those of you that don't know me that well, that is a favorite line of mine. I want to know what the contract says. So what did you fill in? NA or zero? Well, NA or zero means nothing. So 0 plus 0 equals, say it with me, 0. There's nothing the broker can do about that, because that's what you agreed to. And sometimes people did that to say, my services are free. You should never be saying that. Your services are not free, never have been free. And come August 17th, there's no guarantee that the seller is going to offer a brokerage engagement or compensation, which means you would revert back to your broker's agreement. Okay, engagement. So to give you an example, I had a closing a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago now, and that particular builder offered 3%. I heard over the weekend their commission has now changed to a flat $20,000. That's it. So if that is not the percentage that you were expecting as a business person, then you would have to go back to your brokerage engagement to get the difference, if that is what is negotiated. Okay, so let's swipe left for the exclusive buyer. So this GAR form provides that the buyer's real estate broker will seek to be paid a compensation. However, I'm calling this the real estate 3.0, which we're going into with these changes. It could be paid by the buyer if it's indicated on your exclusive agreement and signed by that buyer. Okay, is everybody with me on this? I know many of you on this call have worked with buyers, you've done this, but you're going to have to tweak your system if you have not been following this. And if you don't get comfortable with the form and comfortable with the conversation with the buyer, you're probably going to find yourself not making a compensation when that situation comes up. It is my understanding August 17th, NAR will say that compensation does not have to be advertised on the MLS system. FMLS and Georgia MLS have not informed us yet that I'm aware of. So if anybody is on this call and they've heard that or went to a class or something, let me know. But right now, what we know today will be different August 17th. Okay. All right. Any questions here on this?
Deborah, with a VA or an FHA loan, is there any restrictions as far as them paying a commission at this point? I thought I saw something about the VA changing, but I might not have.
We don't have any word on that yet. And that was my next line on this slide. The exception for now is VA buyers. They cannot pay a buyer compensation to you at all. Now, I just finished my, did anybody take the ABR last week, Monday and Tuesday on this call, on this Zoom? Just me? Okay, so chef's kiss. If you aren't taking advantage of that freebie between now and the end of the year, I highly recommend it. I even recommend the instructor I had because it was like I was looking in a mirror. I mean, you guys think I'm rough. I laughed I don't laugh during a class because I'm taking notes and figuring out what I need and what you need. I laughed the entire time and got more nuggets than I've had in a long time in a class. The ABR is the accredited buyer representative designation. And NAR decided to offer that for free between now and the end of the year. Those classes filled up. There were 1,800 people in my class, 3,000 signed up. So you know how it is when something's free, people don't see a lot of value in it and they sign up and then don't show up. Well, 18 of us did. And it was tremendous as far as I'm concerned. I think the instructor had a lot to do with it because I think when there's a class that's heavy, and you have a good instructor, it makes the time go quickly. So it's 2 days. I believe it was, it's all day too, by the way. So you need to just clear your schedule. I think we went from 9 to 5, I want to say, or something like that, because, no, we didn't. We went from like 10 to 6. And that's because Hawaii was there were other time zones. So that's why it starts a little later. So it's breakfast for them and lunch for us and so on and so forth. So if you can do that, you'll go to NAR. I think if you're in Midtown, I sent that out several weeks ago for you to sign up. And if you haven't done it, they're teaching it every 2 weeks. So get in. You may not be able to get in until June or July because most of the May classes are full, but I would try. And once you're done, you have to show 5 buyer side only transactions. You have to be in good standing with your board. And you have to, there is a third thing, I forget, but I already have it. I just needed to take you have to have an elective. And they'll give you a list of electives. Well, I've got 99 designations behind my name, and at least 4 of them are part of the elective. So I'll be able to show them that I'm in good standing with my designations. I've paid my dues, and I'll have my ABR as soon as they send me the paperwork to fill out. So there's no CE to it. It's all pure. You sit there, you learn, and they're going to talk about scripts, rules, laws. They dive deeper. So I hope all of you on this Zoom will take it. And if you already have ABR, you can take it again, just as a refresher. Okay, so Carlin, to go back to your question about VA, that was discussed. There's still no answers yet. Okay, anyone else with a question? All right, but as soon as we hear something about VA, we will definitely let you know. We'll put it in the circle. All right, let's swipe right. Now, this is not a form that over the years I've used very often, but I knew what it was for. But we didn't have all this talk about being paid, not being paid, so on and so forth. So when you deal with the exclusive, you are talking about compensation, and that is your client. However, if you do non-exclusive, I had someone thinking, well, is this also my client? Sort of, okay? Because sort of and sort of not. And the reason being to just sum up what a non-exclusive, What's the word in front of exclusive? Non. So that would be the opposite. If you read the form, so I would advise you, your homework is to read the exclusive agreement thoroughly and read the non-exclusive thoroughly. Basically, the non-exclusive says at the top that this person is a client for the property you're taking them to, that you may write an offer for. But if you read that form, it also says that buyer can also work with Adam, Cameron, Deborah. They can work with other people. So you might have this signed, and then the buyer goes off to write an offer with someone else that for a different house. They can do that because they're not exclusive to you. Is everybody thoroughly confused on that, or you got it? Yes? Okay. So the non-exclusive broker can only recover commission from the buyer if the buyer purchases the property identified to the buyer by the broker during the term of the agreement. So you're going to put all of that in the form. In other words, are you the procuring cause? All right. So let's friend that customer. The broker-customer relationship is one in which the broker does not represent the individual in an agency capacity, but the broker may perform ministerial acts. So what are ministerial acts? Yell them out for me. Let me see if you guys know what ministerial acts are. Lynn Madison. Thank you, Jason. That is who the instructor. I had to look it up. But yes, I should remember her name forever because she was fantastical. All right. Tell me about ministerial acts. Let's see if we know what they are.
Home search.
Home search. Okay.
Can we show property?
Show property. Give me one more. Hey, Willie, the Nelson. Give me another one, and then I'll give them to you.
Can you fill out a form as well?
You can fill out a form. You fill out the GAR forms. Okay, so let's look at them. Identifying property, providing the information about the property. So you pull it from the FMLS or Georgia MLS or off market, and you let that person know about it. You're going to provide pre-printed contracts, also known as our GAR. By the way, you are all realtors. You should be using GAR forms, not the RE forms. If you receive a RE form, you have two things you can do. You can tell that other salesperson, because that's what they are, they're not a realtor, that you have to use GAR forms, and do you mind if I redo this on a GAR form? Or you can mix the two contracts. You can mix GAR with RE, because a person who's using RE is not a realtor, and they have not paid the extra money to get the GAR forms. The GAR forms cost somewhere around $300 a year. And if they decide not to do that, that's why you have RE forms. Okay, so if someone gives that to you, you're more than welcome to ask them, hey, my broker is going to require me to use GAR. Do you mind if I redo that? If they tell you no, you do have the ability to keep that. RE forms do not give as much protection as a GAR form. Okay, and that'll happen because a lot of people are dropping out of the boards, mostly the mom and pops, the bigger box franchises are not. They may separate like Metro Brokers does, but for the most part, they haven't. Acting as a scribe to complete. Now, you might not think of yourself as a scribe, but when we fill in blanks on the GAR forms, we are performing scribe duties. Okay, but that's just what ministerial acts talks about. Assisting with relevant professionals. What does that mean? Someone tell me.
Giving them recommendations.
Inspections, structural engineers, termites, things of that nature. My advice to you in this very volatile environment of real estate 3.0, use the GAR form that's labeled vendor. You can list your vendors on there. If you already have some type of form, that's fine. But if you use the GAR and you list your vendors and what they offer, at the very bottom, there's a disclaimer that says, we know nothing about nothing. We've had good reviews, and you can't hold us liable if this person did something incorrectly. Okay, and they sign it and you give it to them. Okay. Now, the reason why I like that form because of that disclaimer. Why? Because as a broker, I receive calls from buyers or sellers complaining that you recommended this contractor, you recommended this whatever, because you don't have a disclaimer. See, when I give my vendor list, it has the disclaimer. I need you to initial this. You're more than welcome to call anyone on this list. I've personally used blah, blah, blah. Some of my clients have personally used blah, 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 and they were happy. That doesn't mean the person I'm handing it to is going to be happy with whatever the work is, but I don't need them coming back to me to say, you recommended this person and they were horrible. I'm sorry to hear that. I'll be removing them from the vendor list. Next. That was a script, by the way. All right. Assisting with relevant professionals, identifying neighborhood amenities such as schools, shopping, eateries. You can do all that. In other words, we can act as the customer's arms and legs, performing administrative duties, but not their brain. What do you think? How many of you have heard that 100 times? What do you think? I'm sorry, you're my customer, and I've provided you with all the information you need to make a decision. Those type of duties, services are reserved for my clients. Do I need to say that again? Or did you get it? Those type of services are reserved for my clients. Write it down, memorize it, tweak it however it sounds better coming out of your mouth. But that is what you should be saying, also known as a unique value proposition. When you work with me, those services are extra. You're a customer. Comments about that? No? You guys are a quiet bunch today. Too much partying over the weekend? Okay.
I do have a question. Can you actually just repeat, not like everything you just said, but
No,
you gave
which
an
part?
example. You gave an example of where you said those services are reserved for my clients.
Yes.
I missed the example you gave.
So when I said right here, see where it says, but not their brain, and in parentheses, what I mean by that, advice. So when they're a customer, you're just doing duties. You're just doing administrative things. But then what'll happen, you'll sit down with that customer who will then say, well, what do you think? If someone
and then
says
they want your
your advice, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
okay.
Oh, you know what? I'm really not going to be able to go into that because you elected to be a customer, not a client, and I reserve those services for clients.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for asking. Because the seasoned people, they wanted to know too. They were just afraid to ask.
All right.
I'm just teasing. All right. The protected period. This has been a big one lately. And for those of you that are my Game of Thrones faves, you'll understand this. The protected period, when you have an agreement, we are all putting a protected period, hopefully, in that contract, whether it's a listing protected period or a buyer protected period. And this has come up quite often in the past couple of months. When you sign an agreement, and let's say they decide to fire you or withdraw or whatever the case may be, and the buyer comes back with a new agent, what happens to you? So you're working with a buyer, they ghost you. Let me give an example. They ghost you and they go back to a property that you took them over the threshold, and they ghost you, and then they return with a different agent who is making an offer on that property. So what happens to you? How do you get paid in that situation? And you have a protected period of 90 days. Somebody tell me.
I was about to say, I don't know if I missed a part of that or not, but once they hire a new agent, doesn't it, like your protection period is no longer like valid at that point, I thought.
It depends. Now, what you missed was you took them over the threshold. So
Got
for
it.
90
Okay.
days, if they come back to the same property, even if they brought another agent, that agent, of course, wants to be paid, but then you will have to remind that buyer, you do remember I took you through the home, I toured you through the home, and we have a protected period. We didn't cancel our client agreement, so you also owe me a commission. That's always messy. It never works out. Try to keep that from happening by explaining the form. Okay. And then, and the remedy to that, for those of you that have not been in the business that long, is typically a suit. First, we would start with talking to the other broker, not the agent, but well, probably the broker to broker conversation. And then also, if the seller, let's pretend the seller let you go and they hire a new brokerage, not Keller, and it could be Keller Williams, but a different location, because we're independently owned and operated. Okay. Now what happens to your protected period? It's over. If you read that paragraph about protected period, it says, if, let's pretend the seller goes for sale by owner, that person comes back, you know, when sellers try to play that game of come back by Saturday, my listing agreement will be over. And the seller comes back and they try to do something, there's a protected period that you had with that buyer, and they should not be going back to that property without you. Okay. Now, if the seller lists with a new brokerage, your protected period as a listing agent is over. But let's say you brought the buyer as well. Hopefully you did some kind of exclusive or non-exclusive agreement with them as well. All right. And everybody gets confused with dual agency. Dual agency is when both parties are clients. And if you read that paragraph about dual agency in your ABCs of agency, you must disclose to both parties, I am now in a dual agency situation. There are some market centers, check with your own market center, that don't allow dual agency. We do not have that in the Midtown office. Okay. And I don't always put myself in a dual agency situation. If I'm the listing agent, that buyer in the past was a customer, but now they may end up being a non-exclusive. Okay. It just depends on the circumstances. So you as the professional have to make sure you are protecting yourself and everybody involved, so there's no uproar, you know, that type of thing. But compensation, everyone likes to say, I had a call this weekend where someone was upset and I brought her from a 10 to a 2, as many of you know I like to say, because they thought they should have gotten paid. But the protected period was in place, yes, but the seller changed to a different brokerage. Okay. And then you have to, in order to get compensation, you have to bring a ready, willing, and able buyer, and your compensation is earned when? Tell me when the compensation is earned. Anybody can unmute and tell me.
Whenever an offer has been received at list price, or like that matches all of the terms that you're yeah, basically list price, right?
Nope. Willie, take that out because that's not the right form. It's a straight up, it's called vendor form. If you could look that one up. It's a straight vendor form. The hiring of a vendor, I'm sorry, I saw that in there and I don't want the wrong form. I wasn't talking about that one. It's just plain vendor. So look for that one and put that one in there. When is the compensation earned?
Is it at closing?
Yes, when it closes. When the attorney says we're funded, you've earned your commission, not before. Everyone gets into their feelings, emotions. They call me, roll around like a 5-year-old. I let you, and then I hold the mirror up to say, did you close on this? No, you haven't earned anything yet. Okay, so usually when there's a lawsuit, it's because something was earned, it has funded, and now we have a problem. So sellers sometimes try to avoid this obligation by waiting for their listing to expire and then, telling a buyer to come back. That doesn't happen that often, but I'm not going to say it doesn't happen. Okay. Does everyone understand your protected period and why that's important? If you go to Wiseman, which I'll show you at the end of this, his videos, he does a whole thing on protected period. He suggests 365. I don't know that I agree with that 100%, but I understand his logic when you watch the video. Okay. All right. The protected period also gives certain commission rights, as we just talked about, after it expires or terminates. A negotiated period following the earlier expired brokerage agreement or a mutual termination, but the buyer will not be obligated to pay commissions if you've got a protected period and that buyer's agreement expires and you don't do a new one or amend it. So you don't always have to redo a buyer's agreement if it expires. We have an amendment to the brokerage engagement that you could go in and say, oh, it expires May 7th. Let me go ahead and do this amendment for the brokerage agreement, just like you do an amendment for a purchase and sale to say, I'm going to add another 30 days on this. For those of you that have never done new construction, make sure if you're working with someone who's doing new construction, maybe it didn't start out that way, but it's going to end that way, then you want to amend your brokerage engagement to make sure if the builder says it's going to be 6 months or 11 months or whatever. So when I'm working with someone that is purely looking new construction, and depending on the price point, like the closing recently, their brokerage engagement was for 12 months because I didn't know what period of time it would take the builder to finish that house, and it took 11. So I didn't have to go back and amend my agreement or anything because it was still good. Okay. Now, could you do a year with a buyer? You could, but a buyer may not want to do a year. Like, it's going to take you a year to find me a house. Think about the things that you're offering to that buyer. They may not like you for a year, but at the end of the day, that's a conversation you have at your CITO, your come into the office meeting, your consultation meeting. Or if the agreement was terminated, mutually especially, and the buyer signs a new brokerage engagement. So if it expires and they go and sign a new one, you're done with someone else. So what is important to ask that buyer when you have your consultation? Somebody yell it out.
Are you under contract with any other realtor?
Perfect. That's very important. Will you get some people that won't tell you the truth? Yes. So you have to ask that question a different way. I need to make sure that we don't have anyone else coming after you for compensation. Are you in any other agreements with anyone else? You see how I said that different? Versus, are you in any other agreements? No. I've given them some information about lying, okay? And then they can say, now, if they still say no, they say no. But at the end of the day, I've let them know, have you said, because a lot of our customers and clients don't do what? They don't read, they just sign. So you might have to jog their memory by also adding the caveat, I want to make sure no one comes after you for compensation once we get started. Are you under obligation with anyone else? Did you sign anything else? Okay, everybody good? All right, I think Willie also put the correct vendor.
Sorry, but I remember.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, not the vendor, but the correct form. It's
the vendor
834.
list.
Say it again. Vendor
It's
list. Yeah.
the vendor list.
Yes. So if
I
you
remember
take
talking about
that and you fill that out, and you'll see a disclaimer at the bottom. So that's your homework. Go look at that form. And it might be something you want to add to your unique value proposition when you're meeting with them to sign the engagement. You can say, and here's my vendors list. If you'll go ahead and sign that, I'll also give that to you. I'll have Brandon on this list, as we discussed in our meeting, call you, or whatever the case may be. Okay.
And Deb, I put the
Go
chat.
ahead.
I put in the chat, one of the things that I've started using for buyers is, have you seen any homes yet?
Right, yes.
And then if they say, oh, well, I've seen something, or I had some that was sent, and I said, oh, you haven't sent, how did you find them?
Yep.
And
Yep.
they say, oh, I had a realtor, they sent me, oh, you had a realtor. Do you remember signing anything with them, or how long has it been? And then they'll say, oh, well, I was talking to them, but blah, 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 to probe, to find out.
Mm-hmm. That's very good. Did everybody hear that? That's very good advice, because they may tell you no, but then if you ask in a different way, have you looked at any homes so far? Oh yeah, I looked at 123 Main Street. How did you see that? Oh, the listing agent. Oh, did you sign anything with that person? So you want to dig. You've got to be like a Nancy Drew. For those of you that don't know who that was, mystery detective back in the day. I'm a big reader. All right, anybody else? All right, any other questions about the protected period? All right. So how many of you, raise your virtual hand, heard of the the seller's net sheet? Raise your virtual hand. Every hand should go up. If you're not using it, you need to use that for sellers when you go on a listing appointment. I've always taught that. But one thing I've never taught in the contract class, although I've mentioned it, is the buyer. And why do you think I haven't done that? I don't want to say it like that. One of the reasons this form is underused is because you're leaving it up to the lender. Okay. I discuss buyer costs in my consultation, but I don't always use this form because usually the buyer has already been pre-approved or pre-qualified and we go over their TILA. Does anybody know what the TILA is? TILA. Come on now. Come
Truth
on,
in
Spice.
lending.
There we go.
Truth.
Truth in lending. Yes. I don't remember what the A is for, but truth in lending, TIL, but it's TILA. So when I work with anyone, and you should be doing this as well, do you have a pre-qual or a pre-approval from someone? No, let me get you pre-qualified or pre-approved with someone. They're going to give you a TILA, and then we can go over that. The lender will go over it with you, and I'll go over it with you on what your estimate of costs will be. Why do you think I want to talk about this form now?
You want to talk about it so that way you know if they have the money to bring to closing, like if they have the money to cover their closing costs and setting expectations, because that will help you negotiate better with the homes that you locate for them.
That would have been the answer, is still the correct answer, but it was the answer prior to the settlement. Why do you think I want you to learn this form now?
And now you know how much you
I
got to
heard somebody say it. Was it Mika? Did you say it? Sounded like your voice. Carlin, you said it. What did you say?
Said commission compensation, that may
Compensation.
now have to be-
By the way, guys, there's a
Yeah.
big red arrow right here. All right, so please don't look at this example and try to add and subtract. I just threw some numbers in here so you would see what it looks like. I don't even know if it adds up. Well, it does add up, but it might not make sense. So let's say you pulled this form and you've got a buyer who's going to buy a 725 home. They're going to put 20% down, and the truth in lending says they need, I'm just going to use this example, $8,700 worth of closing cost. And, you can go in here and kind of calculate estimate of taxes, homeowners insurance, things of that nature. You may be able to take the TILA and plug it right into this to make it simple, stupid, or you could use the TILA to do this. Okay. However, the main reason I want you to know, if the broker commission has to be paid by the buyer, shouldn't you put that down as well? Because they are only thinking about their down payment, maybe their closing costs if they have to pay it themselves. In this price point, that's a possibility. But if it's a $245,000 buyer, that might not be the case. They may say, well, I've got my FHA 3.5% down, but I'm going to need help with the closing costs. Yep. And you also might need help with paying me in the event you select a home that does not have a commission offer. Now, let me tell you what I learned in ABR, because I've heard different sides, and I have a feeling I'm going to keep hearing different sides. You'll remember when we had our town hall in Midtown and we talked about this, where we could not say, you know, we can ask the seller and so on and so forth. I'm going to tweak that a little bit based on what I learned, and I'm always learning. We can tell the buyer when we are having our consultation. This is why it's very important to have consultations. Now, buyer, in the event we look at homes that are not offering compensation, we can write a special stip in the contract to ask the seller to pay it. We can say that. What we were told at the beginning of this is why I said this train just keeps going down the track and it falls off and it gets back on. What I heard, what I was taught the first time I went to anything, you can't say anything about it, which did not really resonate with me, because how are they going to know that we can write it into the contract? And then I went through Seth's NAR special edition class, and he said it as well. And I'll show you those special steps as well. But we can say, for the most part, we're going to look at properties, and many times compensation is going to be offered, but I can't guarantee it. See, before we used to say, oh, you know, we know that if it's in MLS, there's something there, whether it's $1 or it's 3% or whatever, 3.5%, whatever it is. But now, come August 17th, all bets are off, you guys. Okay, now we will learn August 17th how things will play out, what we can say, what we can't say, all of that. But for now, it's still in Georgia, business as usual. You still fill out your brokerage engagements, that's law. And you can still talk about compensating and things like that, because I am starting to see something less than in MLS and FMLS. All right, but for the purpose of this form, you would then put potentially what it is you expect, because that's the business you're running. So I don't want everyone to have fear. I said at that town hall, you know, Chicken Little, the sky isn't falling, that kind of thing. It's business as usual. What's not usual for some of you is the conversation, because you've never done it or you haven't had to do it. Okay. And I will tell you, I'm really pissed off about the media. They've got it so wrong. I watch a lot of different things, or I should say it watches me, and it's on, or it happens to come on after something else. And I'm seeing ticker tapes going across. You may be able to do this, that, and the other. They're not explaining it. They're not asking us. They're just interpreting what they're reading and putting it out there and leaving. So a person watching the news or listening to this or reading articles, they're hearing every third word. And the words they're missing should be coming from us through a consultation, through your sending out newsletters, sending out videos, putting them on your website, things of that nature to explain it. Now, when you explain it, please make sure you know what you're talking about. All right. So if you're not sure what to say, run it by someone before you do it, because you could be spreading the same misinformation. But on this form, this is the reason why I wanted to show this form today, that you need to learn how to use it. And when you use it in Remind versus Command, it will auto-populate when you put in some of these items, it will add and subtract for you. Now, it will not add and subtract your commission because it doesn't know what your commission is. So you would have to calculate that and put that in. Okay. And then, their earnest money deposit. It's another way to communicate some of the fees that they need to have, especially for a first-time home buyer. They just think down payment. They don't think about inspection, appraisal, and things of that nature. Okay. Any questions about this form? This bottom part where it talks about the monthly payment, you could get that from their TILA. Or if you go to FMLS, they have a calculator on there for both buyers and for sellers. And you can put the numbers in to transpose to this if you want something in writing, because in FMLS, it won't let you print it. I tried to do that for this today and it didn't do that because I want to show it to you. But if you go to FMLS, there's a buyer calculator, a seller calculator. You can use that if you prefer, or learn how to use this form. And we'll be talking about this form again in contract class. Any questions about this form?
Yeah, Deborah, I have a question.
Sure.
I cannot see the bottom of this form.
Oops, let's see.
So my question is this. Well, first of all, I want to say that I'm always nervous about putting things out there like this, just
Yes.
because I don't want them to hold me to it.
That's why it's an estimate.
Okay. All right. All right. So I'll be sure to highlight that word as well.
That's what I do. I didn't do it on this example, but you'll notice I highlight certain things. And then I did a little squiggle at the top. I get them to initial it that I went over it. Okay, this was
Okay,
just an
thank you.
example to show that. Okay. So here's some special stipulations, 619 and 620. 619 is talking about the buyer broker commission in a VA loan situation. And then 620 would be all other loans. So SS 619 for VA and SS 620. If you're in Remind, when you go to the special stip situation, 2 buttons will pop up for clauses. You click it, you type in SS 20, it will add it to your contract. If you're in Command, you'll have to copy and paste this. I don't think you can append the contract in Command. Touring agreement. How many of you read the article from Zillow that they now have a touring, and you have an example of it? This is copywritten, so don't throw this everywhere. This is for this class only. I saw this and said, So I reached out to one of my favorite closing attorneys, and I said, could you look at this and give me your opinion? I won't hold you to it. And that attorney said, absolutely. And this is what she had to say. Until we see the final terms of the approved settlement, it would be difficult to say whether or not this would be sufficient. It seems to suggest that compensation at issue is limited to the touring services, not all brokerage services that are being offered to that buyer. I don't think that this is in line with the spirit of the settlement. Brokers aren't in the business to be tour guides. They want compensation on the sale, and that is the service they are offering. They take a buyer on tour. To the extent the broker expects to get paid for their services, they need to get that in full writing. Let's go back to that form. You see any full writing in here about compensation? No, it just talks about, I'm going to show you, here are the hours. Doesn't say anything about money. It's executed by you, signed by the brokerage, the agent, and the buyer. Nothing about how you're getting paid. Okay, and you have that in the chat to read it later. Even if it is acceptable, it seems like a risky proposition for the broker and would not be a practice I would promote. And I am not promoting this. I just want you to understand. That's why we have this broker chat, because lots of things are being slung out there at us. What's good, bad, and ugly is what we're here to figure out. I would get a BBA signed before doing anything. Agents should get comfortable with getting the BBA signed up front and stating their value propositions. That's from an attorney. Boom. Okay. So, you know me, I'm Nancy Drew. I saw this. Let me get someone's opinion on this. I knew what mine was, which is the same as hers, but this is from her mouth. Okay. Any questions about that? So what should you be using? You want to make sure you give the CB, the consumer brochures, CB01 to be specific, and then everything else you can give depending on what they're buying. But CB01 is the agency consumer brochure. You want to use F110 because that has the most protection. F113, protected but limited, as we just learned. 116 is agreement to work with a customer who will pay you if there is no commission. So that probably will go away, I'm thinking. but I don't know that for sure because what's the point of it? And then a net sheet to the buyer. Be transparent, disclose. Here's what I learned in the ABR also that I thought was interesting. I've never used this forewarn. When it was being offered to us, for something in me was not right with this. And let me tell you why. Because already there are lawsuits for fair housing. Some agents are already abusing this. And it's really for you to protect yourself, to make sure the person you're talking to is legit, but people are using it for other things. And there are already small lawsuits happening with fair housing. So be careful with that. Wiseman, for those of you that are new to me, new to this call, there, if you go to YouTube and sign up for Wiseman PC, here are videos. He's got about 100 of them now that you can go in and type in the search bar, hey, I want to know something about buyer brokerage engagement. And everything that has that word will pop up and you can watch those videos. As you can see, they're like 4 minutes, 7 minutes, 4 minutes, 2 minutes, things of that nature. Here's one right here, episode 96, about the real estate commission. A lot of the stuff that we talked about today will be on there, plus some. So if you haven't put that on your phone, when you sign up and subscribe, then periodically you'll get a little notification that a new video has been uploaded. I highly recommend this page. 3 things to remind yourself. People don't buy what you do, they buy how you think. Break through the noise, and we've got a lot of it. People bet on systems over personality and charisma. We're all cute. We're not that cute. I work hard, I'm available 24/7. So what? Tell them how you'll uncover deals or craft winning offers or calculate the cost of, and that'll make them think about how much is it for me not to work with you? How much will I lose if I don't work with you? People trust fiduciaries, not salespeople. We are realtors. You let them know I'm an accredited buyer representative once you earn that designation, and personalized follow-up sessions by video to answer questions or email campaigns. We have all of that in command. I think Ishameen is doing something on that this month, as a matter of fact, with your database. Would your buyer think this was value? The cost versus value. Hey, I added on a deck. I should be getting $50,000 more. Not according to the recouping of a property. Where can you get this? Costversusvalue.com. Questions, comments, concerns? Open your mic and talk to me. We've got 2 minutes. Wow, we finished on time. I've never finished on time before. What is happening? Willie, what are you clapping about?
I was congratulating. You know, I celebrate. That was a great info as always.
All right, come on, comments. You guys have got some comments. Did you learn anything? How about that? Let's start there.
That buyer net sheet was golden, and I don't know why I didn't know that estimate, but more and more I'm having conversations as we go into the shifting market where I've had not my preferred lenders, but other lenders that people are coming to me with that are saying in their synopsis with 10,000 in seller contributions. And I'm going back to your lender can't just tell you that the buyer or the seller is going to give you this, and that's what this is predicated on. So they saying, I got my pre-approval letter, and I'm ready to go. And I ask the questions and talk to the lender. So you're saying if they don't have this money from a seller, that this isn't going to go through? I'm not going to set myself up or my client. And trying to get them to give me something that explains this is not just what you know, all of this, they're new, they don't know. This is what you're looking at, 17,000, and you have 5.
Right.
So I'm not going to rip around, you know, so this is golden. That for me was worth the cost of admission.
Good. Thank you so much. Anyone else?
I was curious, what's the name of the instructor that taught your ABR?
Lynn Madison. I think I talked to Jason about it when I was in class, and he put it in there because I told him her name, and I had to look at it because I couldn't remember. I told you when I hang up on something, it's out of my head until I look it up, but I write it down. Somebody else, Nancy Mika collects Nancy Drew books. Okay, I love it. Look in your chat, Lynn Madison. See if you can get in her class. I'm telling
Okay.
you, that's only if you can stand me, because she is me and some. She tells it like it is. So if you have thin skin, she's not the instructor for you. There's others on there, but she is hilarious.
And Deborah,
She's from Chicago. I'm just going to warn you.
Deborah, what is the ABR class? What does it stand for again?
Accredited buyer representative.
Thank you.
It's a NAR designation. If you go to NAR, you're a member of NAR, and you click on or search it, you'll see the registration there.
Okay.
You will not be disappointed, I promise you. Mika, did you have your hand up?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. You dropped a lot of gems today. Thank you. With
welcome.
the TILA, I was searching it online. Is there something specifically that you use and cover with them, or you just go over the Truth in Lending Act?
I go over it. Yeah. I do have a sample. When you go to CFPB, there's a bunch of little samples on that site. You can download something to use as a sample. Like when I teach contract classes, I'll pull a CD, a blank CD from there to show you guys what a CD looks like. There's a TILA in there as well.
Oh, that's so great. You said CFPB?
Consumer, that's the consumer. You remember when we switched from HUDs to CDs? And if one feels like they've been slighted, for just make it short and simple, on their estimate, they can file a complaint with the CFPB.
Got it.
Also where you can check where I had to recently do this with a builder, and my clients were upset with their lender. And I went into CFPB and put their name in and saw all the complaints from people about the lender.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Also a unique value proposition to your clients. I'm just full of unique value propositions. Whether you're catching these, I don't know.
Well, I want to more, because you're definitely a way of looking at how we do things. So thank you.
Here's the thing. Find the things that will give the facts so you don't have to say it. Because people believe what they see sometimes, not what you say.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome. You guys were good today. I had to prod it out of you after your long, I don't want to know about dancing on the table weekend, but I appreciate all of being here. Anyone else? How about my newbies? Did you get anything good out of this?
Oh, yes, I did. This was fantastic. Thank you so much. I'll be on these calls more often.
Good, good. Well, we'll be able to see each other on Circle. So make sure you sign up for your Circle account. And I think that's going to make a lot of things easier to find out what's going on where and what office and who's doing it and so on and so forth. So make sure you answer that email if you haven't already. I think that something went out this morning from Brett about it, as a matter of fact. All right, guys. Well, I think they need this Zoom link. So we're going to say goodbye until next month. I'll see you. And if you have any subject matters that are burning in your mind that you want us as brokers to cover, please, please, please send those to us and we'll make sure we talk about it.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good day. Go sell some real estate.
Thanks.